Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to episode 50 of the Fierce Factor podcast. And you guys, y'all, this is an incredible episode for me. This is a monumental episode because when I went back and did the math and I looked at the date, I realized this is 1 year mark of delivering a weekly podcast to y'all without interruption. So it's hard to believe it, but we are here. And I want to, first of all, thank you for being a listener. Thank you for coming along on this journey with me over the course of the past 50 episodes and the past year, starting with episode 1, Fierce AF, on, it was maybe first week of April of last year. And just to think of what has transpired over the past year, it's been pretty incredible journey. And I feel honored and blessed and enthusiastic for what season 2 holds in store for us. So I wanted to just take a super quick few minutes to just do a quick recap. I'm sort of going to freestyle a little bit of what's going on in my head and how I'm feeling about this podcast a year later, and just share with you some of the ideas that I have for what is to come for the future of both KLC Consulting and the Fierce Factor podcast over the course of season 2 of the Fierce Factor. If you're new around here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to have you here. My name is Kaylee Lindholm, and I am the founder of KLC Consulting and the Pop Aesthetic Leadership Academy, where we help aesthetic practice owners and leaders build deeply satisfying, lucrative, freedom-based businesses that stand the test of time. And we do that by helping implement systems and strategy and team through our core milestones in our academy. And while this is a little bit fresh and off the cuff, I wanted to share with you some exciting things that I am working on in the business and how I see that translating for you, fierce, ambitious, loyal listeners to this podcast. This last year has been a whirlwind for everybody. And I think that one thing I've learned, strangely, is that my comfort zone is, we all have a comfort zone, right? And you see people post memes about step out of your comfort zone, do the thing that scares you the most. And what's interesting is coming from corporate America and starting my business and going through the turmoil that, I've shared in some of the episodes on this podcast as it relates to adversities. Many of you too have had very tumultuous or adverse events in your life and really know that the opportunity for growth and winning and success and achievement comes by overcoming those difficult and trying times. And I realized as I had this vision and this ambition for starting my business, and then 5 years later, really turning it into something that I could build in a way that would serve more people and grow beyond me, I thought that that was absolutely pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And something I have realized is that comfort zone looks different for different types of people. And I really think I have worn a badge of honor around episode 1, Fierce AF, as in fierce as F-U-C-K, because I'm such a badass, right? Like, I'm so fierce. I started this podcast and my house burned down and I started a business and I was a big corporate executive. And I realized that all the stuff that I talk about is these are things that challenge me. These are things that make me maybe tougher in my mind, and I've built this sort of callus and this strength and this aptitude for achievement. and staying strong and getting more and going after more. And I learned something really, really valuable about myself this year, and actually quite surprising. And that was that my comfort zone is doing things that are vulnerable, that are internal, that are exposing my emotions. And I built my business, and I believe that there are a lot of you, and you listen to this because you are in alignment with me. You know, you have big, ambitious goals, and you get up every day and you do the damn thing. And I was just today, I joined a women's retreat. My business coach hosts these quarterly virtual retreats, and we were talking about building profitable partnerships, which I thought was really great topic, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to reteaching a lot of this content and applying it to some of the partnerships that I built in my business too. But what was interesting is toward the end of the conference, or, the day, the session, we started talking about really rephrasing some quotes from a Brene Brown gift, a book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And we were talking about things that we needed to cultivate in ourselves, things in our spirit. Like for me, it was self-compassion, right? Like the things that we need to do to strengthen our bond with ourselves, to tap into our authenticity, to be really more of a wholehearted person. And this tied into partnerships because she was really trying to articulate the message that if you don't come into a partnership or, a business relationship or any kind of a fruitful partnership where it is an exchange of value, you, without really valuing yourself, it's just not going to be a fruitful partnership for the other person. But it starts with you knowing what you're worth and giving the most value from yourself and to yourself. So she referenced this book by Brene Brown, and I was sitting here like, I do not want to go have a one-on-one conversation with some random stranger about the gratitude and joy and self-compassion that I need to work to cultivate. I was literally about to jump off like, oh, I have more important things to do. I have to go negotiate a 6-figure contract, right? I got stuff to do. And, I had a moment where I was like, you know what? This is uncomfortable for me, and I'm going to sit here and do it and challenge myself to feel uncomfortable for a hot minute. And I had the conversation, and we talked through it, and I got a lot of great tips, by the way, which I'm totally happy to share with you guys about having self-compassion. But what I really took away from that was such an aha moment. What I realized was that this year, looking back on the year in review of these incredible interviews that I've had with leading females in their field, women who have faced adversity, women who have overcome, women who have had just dreams and just set out to win, and, at any cost. Like they were not going to take no for an answer. They were going to go after it. They were going to make impact. They were going to influence other people. And I had the chance to interview so many incredible women and men. And I had the chance to really explore some of myself internally and talk about the things that I believe are a struggle for clients and community members that I have. And a lot of what I did was external, and it was focused on other people. And I had this moment where I started thinking about, why have I set up and done this podcast the way that I have? And I think a lot of it has to do with my comfort zone is actually talking in front of 300 people. My comfort zone is negotiating big contracts. My comfort zone is setting a goal and attacking and achieving that goal. But what's not in my comfort zone is not doing those things, is being okay with being okay. And I'm getting ready to head out on a vacation, and I'm going to put this podcast out during my vacation, and I'm going to have anxiety over it because I'm off the cuff and not scripted, and I didn't plan for this. But my goal for my vacation is to put my phone away and to just check out and to relax and give myself space and freedom and to think and to be okay with just doing nothing and not achieving something, and to think about what I do want and how I want to leverage the personal growth that I believe I've had over the course of this year to impact more people through this podcast. And some things I have in my mind are an intimate retreat for powerhouse aesthetic females. And I have a vision for that for this summer. I'm going to send an email next week and try to get some feedback on that. A place where women can go and we can check out and not be in our houses or in our offices or in front of dishes or kids or running errands, where we can, go recharge and slip into a spacious and scenic place and be around collaborative and supportive powerhouse females in aesthetics and discuss leadership mindset and business growth strategies. And at the end of the day, create connections and lasting relationships of value, because we're moving so fast. And I'm sorry, but I have plenty of friends on Instagram that I don't even know. And I want to get to know people, and I want to get to know about them and about how they handle the challenges that they have in their life and their business. And I want to learn from all of you. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about putting that together and developing that for us. I'm thinking about the future of work with women in our industry and shifting the conversation, truly. I don't think it's okay for us to have a voice, for us to have an opinion, for us to have a disruptive perspective. We have to play politics. That is something that needs to change. And I am willing and able and eager to uplift strong women in our industry who are doing the things. They aren't playing the politics. They aren't trying to be the face of some manufacturer or another company, right? They're not getting sponsored. They're just doing the damn thing. They are building their business. They're running their practice. They are setting an example for other women. They are showing up to show us all what's possible. These are the women we need to hear from. These are the women who need to be the voices that get elevated. We need real, authentic information about what it actually takes to build a business and a life that we love. And we need somebody to be brave enough to show us the way to success without benefiting themselves. I think we all need to come together and support each other and lift each other up. And timing is everything. And speaking of timing, as I was getting ready to record this podcast and pull up my notes for the podcast that I intended to record today, which will come out as a future podcast, so stay tuned. My laptop was dead and I plugged the charger in and it literally started burning. So if that isn't a sign that I need to go on vacation and put my stuff away, and, really do some deep thought work about the future and where I want to take this business and this podcast, I don't know what is. But I want to just leave you with this as I'm looking back at this last year in review. I want to thank you all for being a part of the journey. I want to thank all of you incredible women who were gracious enough to come and be guests on this podcast and to be a part of this mission. And I want to express my gratitude to all of the partners and the other people and the sisterhood and brotherhood in this industry, those of you know who you are, who have helped me each step of the way in mentorship and partnership, you name it, and just support and cheering from afar. And even the little things, like it just means so much. Those of you who left reviews, all of it. So this year in review, season 1, it has been an absolute pleasure. And I cannot wait to return from my trip and kick off season 2 in style of the Fierce Factor podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. And I cannot wait to talk with you next week. Bye. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Fierce Factor. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure you subscribe so you can automatically get new shows every week. I'd also love it if you left us a review. And come join the conversation online. If you're an aesthetic industry owner, operator, or leader, please join my free Facebook group, The Tribe of Fierce Aesthetic Leaders, a community of ambitious, purpose-driven professionals who collaborate and share best practices for growth in business and life. I'm honored you tuned in.